I hope this is visible clearly on the screen to you. दिख रहा है क्या?
Yes, sir.
Very good. So this is working. Hill's equation. And last time we tried to see the general solution to Hill's equation using this beta function, etc. Then we tried to interpret beta function as well as x, x prime, and so on. Today we'll take a slightly different approach, which is more practical. Last time was a more theory-oriented approach, kind of. And we'll amalgamate both of these as we go along, or mix both of these as we go along. Today, we'll try to look at piecewise solutions. Of course, as we progress through today's class, you will understand what exactly this means. But basically, it means that try to find a different solution for each component of the accelerator and then combine all of them together in some way. Let me write a slide number at the corner so that we have track of things. Okay. If you remember Hill's equation, the original equation is x double prime plus some function k. K, if you remember last time, k was my generic name for this thing. For a dipole type term, it is 1 by r square. For a quadrupole term, it is some constant times dB by dx, which you call as k also. So this k here is a general term, if you remember this. Okay. Now, the basic idea of what we are going to do today is when you take an actual accelerator, consider a so-called, let us call it a real accelerator. In a real accelerator, your k is not really a function of s. Let me explain what I mean. Consider a accelerator which is like this. There is an ion source. There is a bending magnet. This is a simple ion implanter type of machine. There is a bending magnet, and so the beam goes this way, bends to the bending magnet, and goes and impinges on some target. Typical ion implantation works this way. There is a source, ion source. There is a bending magnet, and then there is a target where the ions will go and hit. Of course, sometimes you may need to have a lens. Maybe you may need to have a lens here as well. So you have some additional components along the beam path. This is a typical very small tabletop type accelerator system. Fine. Source money, source and extraction, everything is included. So the beam comes out with a certain energy, it tends to diverge. So you have a lens here. Then you want to select out a certain charge state or a particular ion. So you have a bending magnet to do that. At the exit of the bending magnet, by that time the beam might diverge a little. So again, there is another lens which will focus the beam sharply at one particular point on the target. Basic idea. Now let us try to study this same system from the viewpoint of what we have been doing for the last couple of weeks. Let us say that I have the displacement along the nominal trajectory on the horizontal axis. This is the source point which we have described, and this is the target point. And suppose on the y-axis, let us try to plot k as a function of s. What would be k for different situations? Firstly, you will notice that if you remember the way the k came about in your original Hill's equation derivation, it was from a Taylor series expansion of magnetic field, which means that if in a certain region magnetic field is absent, then k ka sawal hi nahi uthta hai. K is directly zero. There is no k. in a region of zero magnetic field. So you have, yeah. Did someone try to join or did they join? Anyway, yeah, let me come back to this. So you have the region where the first lens is there. Let us say somewhere here. You have the region where the second lens is there. Let us say somewhere here. And you have a region where the bending magnet is there. Let us say somewhere here. In all these regions, the magnetic field will be non-zero. Magnetic field inside a quadrupole lens is non-zero. Magnetic field inside the dipole magnet is non-zero. And magnetic field inside the other lens is also non-zero. Okay? But in the in-between regions, between the two lenses, between the lens and the magnet, between the magnet and the lens, between the lens and the target, all these regions, the magnetic field is zero. Okay? So basically, you can try to say that I will write down Hill's equation for, let us try to draw a dotted line here. Let me try to write down Hill's equation for region number 1, which is the gap between the ion source and extraction arrangement till the first lens. In that region, K is 0. So X double prime is 0, therefore X prime is constant. This kind of you get direct solution in that region. Then in the second region, K is non-zero, but K is constant within that region. Okay. So K, the behavior of K as a function of S is nothing but it is like a piecewise constant function. Means it is a different constant value here. Again, in the third region, it is 0. Let me label the regions. Let me draw all the regions first. So you have got, let us say, region number 1 to 7. So region number 1, 3, 5 and 7, all K's are 0. Region number 2 and region number 6, there will be some value of K. Region number 4, there will be a different value of K. And so for each of these regions, K is a constant. So basically what you get or where you arrive after this logic is that there will be different regions. We have identified 3 in the figure which we have drawn. One is a drift type of region. Then you have your traditional bending magnet, which is basically a dipole magnet. And you have your quadrupole lens. And each of these regions has a value of K. In this value of K is actually not a function of S within that region. When you shift the region, K suddenly shifts its value. So in a drift region, K is simply 0. If you look back at your derivation of Hill's equation, if you have a pure dipole type of magnetic term, then the value of the K for the bending magnet is 1 by R square. And for a quadrupole lens, the value of K is just K, which is actually, if you remember, some constant times dB by dx. So it is a constant which is proportional to the gradient of the magnetic field. Gradient of the magnetic field itself remain constant for a quadrupole lens. This is something which we have kept on promising we will do in the tutorial, and for various reasons that point of time is not coming till date. But right after this lecture, you will have the tutorial sheet to solve, and in that we will be proving all of these claims beyond doubt so that you don't run into any trouble. Okay. So basically my complicated approach to Hill's equation now becomes simple because in each region mane those regions which I have marked at the top or the ones which I mentioned on the side. In each region, if I consider any region as the ith region, then basically my Hill's equation becomes x double prime plus ki times x is equal to 0. And this is nothing but a simple harmonic equation. Okay. The earlier general Hill's equation was not simple harmonic. We assumed that it is some kind of harmonic with a varying amplitude, and we managed to convince ourselves that that works. Not convince ourselves only. It does work. But if you take a real accelerator with real components, then you realize that you can solve Hill's equation instead of solving it for the whole accelerator in one go, which is what was our attempt last time. You can solve it separately in each region and then combine all the results. This is similar to what you have done in quantum mechanics for tunneling and so on, or square well, etc. You just take different regions, you match the boundary conditions between different regions so that you get the right answer. So initial conditions or boundary conditions will have to be matched, but otherwise this approach works perfectly fine. Okay. At this stage I would like to stop this discussion. Stop mane pause this discussion, and if you have any questions at this point, please ask. Okay, is it okay to move on then?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's move ahead then. So basically you arrive at a realization that instead of trying to solve the Hill's equation for the whole accelerator, let me try to solve it piecewise. In each different part of the accelerator, k is a different constant, and therefore I will get several simple harmonic type of solutions, and then I can mix and match all of them together to obtain the final solution. This is the basic idea. Moving forward, basically you know that, let me rewrite Hill's equation here. X double prime plus k times x, where k is no longer written as a function of s, it is a constant. What will be the solution to this general solution? You know that the general solution will be x of s will be a times cosine of this k plays the role of, in normal simple harmonic motion, the role played by omega square, right? So the usual solution to this is a cos omega s plus b sine omega s, but omega square is k, so you will get root k everywhere. Okay, so you will get a cos root k times s. You can always write a cos root k times s plus delta, but it is more convenient and better for understanding if we write it this way. Is this okay? This will be the general solution for x in that particular region where k happens to be a particular constant. In the neighboring region, k will be a different constant, but this general form of the solution will remain same, only the constant value of k will keep changing. Okay. So you get x is this and this is this. If you take the derivative, x prime, what will you get? Let us write the sign term first. Reason for this will become clear in a moment. Right. It will give you root k times b cos root k times s, and the derivative of this term will give you a minus sign. So minus root k times a sin. Differentiation is with respect to s, which I hope you remember. X prime is basically dx by ds. Now let us try to evaluate the constants a and b in terms of the initial conditions. So what happens when s is equal to 0? Basically, we are trying to evaluate the solution in terms of the initial condition. What you mean by initial condition is you put s is equal to 0 at the entrance of that particular region. So when the particle entered that region, it had a particular value of x and particular value of x prime. And how do the x and x prime evolve as you move through the accelerator? That is what you are trying to find out when you say initial conditions. When you put s equal to 0, what will you get? What will be the result of the first equation? Bolo.
So x of 0 is equal to a.
Excellent. X of 0 is equal to a. And what about x prime at 0?
So root k times b.
Excellent. Everyone agrees with this? Give me a few yeses quickly.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Very good, very good, excellent. Everyone is on the same page. Very, very good, very nice. So you can rewrite these two expressions for x and x prime in the following manner. You will get x is equal to I am going to write x suffix 0 instead of x evaluated at 0. It has the same meaning. Okay. x0 cos of, I am substituting for a and b by the way, plus if you look at this carefully, it is basically x0 prime into 1 over root k. Here you have only b, na? So b, if you want to substitute, it is x0 prime divided by root k. So that is why you get x0 prime divided by root k multiplied by sine of root k times s. X prime we are going to take the negative term, the a term first, because we want to rewrite in terms of x naught and x naught prime. The a term contains x naught, so this will be basically minus sorry, minus x naught multiplied by square root of k, which is already there, multiplied by sine root k times s, plus root k times b is already x naught prime, so there will be no separate square root of k term, multiplied by cosine of root k times s. We have just substituted the values of a and b into the two previous equations. Now, if you look at this particular equation, you can immediately rewrite it in the following format. You can write it as a kind of matrix equation where you talk about x and x prime, the values of x and x prime at s will be equal to a matrix which has the following entries: cosine of root k times s, 1 over root k times sine of root k times s, minus, don't forget this minus sign, as we will come to see that minus sign is crucial in the, at least practically, root k times s. I know this writing is a bit slow, it's because of the tab thing. Sometimes it's a good thing, it allows you to finish writing fast, you from your side finish writing fast and then keep staring at the blackboard and trying to understand, so probably makes sense. It takes much longer to write than it would normally take, unfortunately. Is this okay with everyone? We can rewrite it as a matrix equation.
Yes, sir.
So basically we have converted the problem of solving a differential equation in Hill's equation to a problem in linear algebra. If you know K, you can obtain the entries of this particular matrix. Once you have got that, if you tell me at the input of that particular thing what is the value of x and x prime, I can tell you what it will be at the output of that particular region, whether it is a drift region or whether it is a what you say, bending magnet or something else. Okay. All right. All right. I hope you are still able to hear me. I just sat on my mic something. So I hope you are still able to hear me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you can write this symbolically as capital X, which is basically the column vector of x and x prime, is equal to a kind of response matrix which depends on the distance traveled and the value of k in that region, operating on the initial values of x and x prime. This is basic idea of this particular formalism. And so in principle, one can use this kind of matrix approach to find out what is happening in different regions. We will now try to do the same for simple things like a drift region, a quadrupole. We'll also interpret some of the terms in the matrix. By the way, quick calculation. What is the determinant of this matrix? It should be clear by inspection. Quickly tell. Fatafat.
1.
1.
Eh,
1, sir.
1. Because root k and 1 by root k will cancel. Minus will cancel with minus. You get cos square plus sine square. What does that mean? What does it tell you? Or what does it imply to you?
It is performing some kind of rotation.
Yes, very good answer. It is performing some kind of rotation. Slightly more generalized way to put it is preserving the length of the x prime whatever vector. The vector in x prime space, its magnitude is being maintained. So basically this is a callback to your Liouville's theorem, which we saw last time, that the solutions to Hill's equation, they will follow this property that the region in x prime space where you are studying the motion, the volume occupied in that space is going to remain constant. This is something along the same lines. So even when you do a specific solution, you expect it to have the same properties as the general solution. The general solution adds this property that there is this constant term in x prime space, which you called the emittance of the beam. This is a callback to the same idea, that this also tells you about emittance conservation. So it tells you something about the norm in x prime space being conserved. So all you can do is rotate the x prime space vector around the phase space ellipse, but you cannot increase or decrease its size, basically something of this kind. Okay, so it's a kind of it refers back this, the idea that this determinant comes to be 1 is because the system is following Liouville's theorem in some sense. Okay, I hope that makes some kind of sense to you. Okay, let us take this forward. Is there anything at this point which is not clear or which needs further elaboration? Then you can ask. I'll halt here for few seconds. All right, if no questions in your mind, then we can move further. Okay, let us move on to the next page of this. Let me just number that page. All right, so we know the general form of the matrix M, which we wrote down on the previous slide. It is of the form cosine of root k times S one by root k times sine of root k times S minus root k times sine of root k times S, and fourth entry is again cosine of right. Now let us try our hypothesis. Let us say I want to find out the matrix for a drift region. For a drift region, what was our idea? K is equal to 0. Substitute करो, बोलो क्या आता है? This is class work. Quickly, come on, bolo. What is the first term?
So we'll get identity
One.
matrix.
Huh?
Identity.
नहीं, don't be so sure of yourself. Second term में there is गड़बड़ ना, k equal to 0 करेंगे तो. इसलिए I am taking it term by term. Don't be in a hurry. First term,
1.
1.
One.
cos of 0 is 1. Second term पे आते हैं 1 मिनट में. Third term, minus 0 into 0.
0.
Fourth term, cos of 0.
1.
1. अभी ये वाले पे आ जाओ. This is of the form 0 upon 0 ना, because this is sin 0 and this is 0. So what do you do when you have sin 0 upon 0? Sin theta upon
Limit.
Limit tan theta
हाँ
by
हाँ, तो इसका आंसर क्या आएगा बताओ. इसमें थीटा क्या है?
S आएगा सर.
श्योर? कैसे? करेक्ट है कैसे?
But sir हम लोग
Divide multiply by S and taking limit with.
हाँ,
हाँ बराबर.
someone else had objection on this और वो वही बंदा बराबर बोला अभी.
नहीं सर मतलब मैंने ही बराबर हाँ.
हाँ ठीक है, मतलब ओके ना, everyone is okay with this. You have to multiply and divide by s, so you will get s upon root of k times s into sine of root k times s. That sine and this root k times s denominator will become 1 and 1 s remains in the numerator. Everyone is convinced about this? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Very good, excellent. So basically you get this kind of matrix. Let us just see whether this makes sense. What does this tell you? X at a distance s is equal to the original x plus s times the original x prime, and x prime at a distance s is equal to 0 plus the original value of x prime. इसका मीनिंग क्या है? See, let us try to understand what is see, this is the nominal trajectory and your actual beam is going like this, suppose. ठीक है, तो अभी let me redo that, just a minute. Suppose this is the point where s is equal to 0 and this is the point where we are going to study it. ठीक है, I'm going to call both the variable and this constant value both as s. You can understand the meaning. So suppose the beam was going like this when it entered this region. This is the region we are interested, na? Yes. This is the region in which we are claiming that k is equal to 0. उसके आगे पीछे क्या हुआ अपने को कुछ भी नहीं मालूम, बराबर है? So at this point when it enters, this distance is x0. And what is x prime? If you draw a tangent at this point, the slope of this tangent is x prime. Agreed? Yes?
Yes, sir.
X prime is nothing but the slope of x with respect to s. X is now plotted along the y-axis, vertical axis. S is plotted along horizontal axis. So this slope is basically the divergence. Okay. Now this is a drift region. तो particle initially ऐसा entry मारा तो ऐसा ही जाते रहेगा. This is our belief ना of a drift region, because there is no magnetic field to change its direction. तो ऐसे ही जाते रहेगा. तो इधर पे जाके स्लोप लेंगा तो क्या मिलेगा? Yes.
So x0 prime.
सेम ही मिलेगा वापस से, because it just moves in a straight line. Before that it was moving something, I don't know, but इधर पे tangent मारा और वही follow किया तो वही मिलेगा वापस तुमको. And what will be the value of xb, sorry, xs will be x0, which is the original value, plus s multiplied by slope, which will be this value. That is what you are getting in the result of the equation. So this matrix is correct. It is representing correctly what we understand by this diagram. Everyone is clear about this? Yes? Does this seem to work correctly the way which we require?
So can repeat.
Yes, I'll repeat. Let me rub that diagram and draw it again. Will that work? Because now it is looking very complicated.
Okay.
This is the problem with, well, forget it यार. Blackboard को मतलब ये कोरोना वायरस को कितना गाली देगा. I was saying that is the problem with online classes. In offline, you can do it much better. But anyway, you are supposed to make best from the circumstances which you have got, not keep cursing the circumstances. This is the nominal trajectory. Yes? Agreed? This is the point which I am calling as 0. This is another point which I am calling as S. And in this region, my claim is that K is equal to 0. Everyone is with me so far?
Yes, sir.
Now the previous part of the accelerator, there was some actual trajectory being followed by the particle. I don't care how it arrived at that trajectory. I just know that this was the trajectory being followed. Is that okay? Actual trajectory. Nominal is this one. वो जाना मांगता था ऐसा, वो actually जा रहा था ऐसा. Yes, okay. Fine.
Yes, sir.
Now, what are x and x prime at this point? That is where our story starts, na? So this distance away from the nominal trajectory along the x direction. Bad. टेढ़ा क्यों जा रहा है यार ये? Maybe I am holding it wrong. This direction is x, just for your reference. Okay. So this particular point will be x0, the initial displacement of the actual particle from the nominal trajectory. Agreed? Yes?
Yes.
And x prime will be the slope at this particular point. Agreed for that also? ये कर्व पे इधर टेंजेंट मारा तो जो स्लोप मिलेगा वही मेरा x प्राइम है, बराबर है? Now in this previous region, the particle was bending. That means there is some magnetic field acting on it. Otherwise, there is no business for the particle to bend. However, in my region, this drift region so-called, I am saying that there is no magnetic field. And therefore, the particle will simply keep going in the same direction it was only originally going. This is similar to, I have a ball at the end of a string. I keep rotating it. At one point, the string breaks. The particle will start traveling tangential. There is no longer a centripetal force acting on the particle. There is no reason for the particle to keep bending. It will move in a straight line. This is exactly the same logic. When it enters a region where there is no longer any force acting on it, it starts moving straight. This is basically what Newton's first law, I think. Particle continues to move in a straight line unless there is a force acting on it. Newton's first law, na? So basically this particle keeps moving like this. Agreed? Physical reason is agreed.
Yes, sir.
In the drift region, it will not bend its trajectory, it will continue to move straight. Therefore, at the end of the trajectory also, its slope will be same as what it was previously. So x0 prime and xs prime will be same, which confirms for us this particular equation, right? And now our next job is to find what is this distance, what is the final distance of the particle from the nominal trajectory, which we are calling as xs. That will just be whatever initial displacement it already had, which is x0, plus how much distance it traveled in a straight line multiplied by the slope, so that will tell you this vertical distance. So xs is x0 plus x0 prime times how much distance it traveled, s. So that explains the second or first equation also. Both the equations are clearly following what you expect logically for a region where no fields are present. Is this okay for everyone? Yes?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Very nice, very nice, very nice. So now we have confirmed this. However, it also gives us a insight into this particular matrix formalism. See, suppose I did want the particle to bend downwards. Suppose मुझे चाहिए था कि नहीं particle अंदर bend होना चाहिए, which means that I don't want xs to be as high as it is. Let me repeat my statement. Suppose I want the particle to bend a little in this region. Okay? That means I don't want xs to be as high as it turned out in this case, right? I want the particle to end up somewhere here, let us say. So xs will be less. What is the method to reduce xs?
Distance can be
Slope
reduced.
keeping drift region low.
Sorry? No, drift region is the drift region. Yeah, suppose you have to put a Faraday cup in the middle, or you have to put some other beam diagnostic in the middle. You cannot cut down the size of the drift region.
So we can reduce the slope.
Exactly. The only thing in your hand is that you should somehow reduce the slope, which is what we are saying now. When we bend, what happens? Slope was initially some value, later on it reduces to another value. बराबर है? So the final slope should be less than the initial slope. Agreed?
Yes, sir.
So for the final slope to be less than the initial slope, basically you need x prime of s equal to x prime of 0 minus something. So you need this quantity, which is 0 in the case of the drift region. If instead of 0 it is negative, then it will indicate that the x prime will reduce as you go along the accelerator. So x prime will be some number times the old x prime plus this quantity times the old x. X is increasing na? From here to here. So basically this term indicates a reduction in the slope, which means that let me write this in a better manner. We have this matrix which has 4 entries na? M11, M12, M21 and M22. 4 entries na? Yes. Out of that, this guy seems to play some kind of crucial role, because when this guy is equal to 0, it implies a drift region that we have seen. Yes, barabar hai?
Yes, sir.
What is the meaning of drift region? Drift region means no focusing. By focusing, you mean that the slope should be reduced. By defocusing, you mean that the slope should be increased. I hope that is clear. So drift means no focusing. However, if that term is less than 0, then you will get x0 prime. Suppose it is a very, very small number, delta, minus delta. Then basically you will get what? The x prime is x0 minus delta times, x prime s equal to x prime 0 minus delta times x prime, x0. Which means that if this is slightly negative, you will get small reduction in the divergence, which means that it represents a focusing kind of behavior. This logic is clear. Let me repeat the logic. Right now I have x prime equal to the original x prime plus 0 because of this 0. 0 times x. If instead of 0 it is a very small quantity minus delta, let us say, then what you will get? You will find that x prime s is equal to x prime 0 minus delta times x0, which means that it will be reduced. Reduction in the slope means what? Bending the beam gradually towards the nominal trajectory, which means in terms of this thing, it is a focusing behavior. Is that okay?
Yes.
Logic पटने जैसा है?
हाँ सर.
Similarly, when this term is greater than 0, it will indicate defocusing behavior. What does it mean when this term is greater than 0? Which means final slope is even greater than initial slope. So basically, if you have 0 drift, then you get 0 focusing, you get this. If you have negative value, you get focusing like this. It will gradually bend towards. And defocusing behavior means it is diverging away from the nominal trajectory. In all cases, the nominal is horizontal over here. I hope these 3 figures serve to clarify this logic. At least I hope it is. Okay. Let us also try to look at, now let us come back to this original equation. We have got an interpretation of this off diagonal lower term. It seems to indicate whether the particular beamline component, for example, this is a drift space, it is neither focusing nor defocusing. Like that, let us try to say what happens for different values of k. Okay. What will happen for a bending magnet? What will be value of k? Bolo.
1/r².
Very good. So now fatafat bolo, what will be the result when you substitute? Root k will be 1 by r. बराबर है? So this will look like the following. Cosine of you can write along with me by watching. Cosine of s by r r sine of s by r minus 1 by r sine of s by r Everyone agrees with this?
Yes, sir.
Others?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Very good. So basically you get this expression. Now look at that bottom off diagonal term, M21 term. What does this tell you? When a beam passes through a bending magnet, of course it gets bent. It also gets hello.
Yes, sir.
What is?
It will be focused. Negative.
Yes, it is negative. Okay, you can try to look at it. If S is greater than what you say, means S by R is greater than pi, only then you get problems, na? So if S is greater than pi R, which means that if you have more than 180 degrees bending magnet, then it will tend to defocus. But otherwise, for normal magnets are usually bent by angles of like 90 degrees or less. So it is usually a focusing term. Okay. Now, why do you think a bending magnet is supposed to bend the beam, na? How does it end up focusing the beam also? Let us try to understand this at this point. See, first thing is the fact that this is there, it indicates something called as weak focusing. Why do you call it weak focusing? Any ideas why?
Greater the radius.
Exactly. Normally, bending radius is quite large. Correspondingly, the magnitude of that term will be quite small. Okay. Physical reason I'll tell you in a moment, but mathematically that term will be very small, so quite close to zero in fact, because R is very large. Sine of S by R will be of order of magnitude 1, na, because it is a sine. But 1 by R itself will be very small. Okay. So you will not get really sharp focusing or something. It is weak focusing. This was weak focusing, which was very prominent in old accelerators because before this quadrupole business and alternate gradient focusing was developed. This was the conventional focusing in accelerators, but it is quite weak. Okay. So this is a well-known experimental fact that bending magnets do focus, but they don't focus very well. And this expression kind of confirms that because there is a 1 by R sitting there. Okay. How does a bending magnet actually work? If you try to see, let me draw here. This is a typical bending magnet. This is how it looks. In the region of this, whatever figure is drawn, the magnetic field lines, let us assume they are going into the plane of the paper. Okay. And perpendicular to the plane of the paper, anyway, plane of the board, whatever you want to call it. And of course, in any reasonable design of the accelerator, the nominal trajectory will pass through the center of the magnet. Is this okay? This kind of object is usually called a sector magnet for obvious reasons. Its structure is like the sector of a circular ring kind of thing. Is this figure okay for everyone? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So the beam will go in like this and it will bend by certain angle. And the angle of bending is basically, if you draw, it will go outside the board, but basically if you draw like this, they will eventually go and meet somewhere, na? And there will be an angle between them. that angle is the angle of bending. बराबर है? Is this okay?
Yes, sir.
And in terms of the accelerator parameters, what is this angle? Basically, the nominal trajectory portion of passing through the magnet is from here to here, means one end of the magnet to the other. Na? So this total region is what you are calling in the expression as S. That is the length of arc from here to here. So basically, this theta is nothing but, if you refer to the matrix above, it is nothing but S by R. So if you have a magnet which is bending through angle theta, then it's what you say? अरे क्या बोल रहे हैं इसको? It's matrix bending, whatever you call it, transfer matrix is going to be cos theta r sin theta minus 1 by r sin theta and cos theta. Basically, just for your reference, I am letting you know this extra information. Now my point was like this. See, consider three particles, one which is traveling parallel to the nominal trajectory slightly at x greater than 0. Consider another particle which is traveling also parallel to the nominal trajectory at slightly on this side, on the inner side. So one particle traveling on the outer side, one is traveling on the inner side. Is this physical picture okay? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And there is one particle traveling along the nominal also, whose path we have already seen. It is going to go like this. Now this particle which travels at slightly outer path, वो भी आएगा ऐसा, बराबर है? But उसको क्या होएगा? How much total distance he'll travel through the magnet? It will be greater than the distance traveled by the nominal particle, right? Because उसका arc length ज्यादा है ना? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
If he travels longer distance, he will get bent also more. Do you agree for that?
Yes.
It's very difficult to draw on computer. Sorry. And the guy who is traveling at slightly inner side, when he exits the magnet, he would have traveled slightly less distance through the magnet than the nominal particle. So he ends up getting bent slightly less. So basically the outer guy what happens is he spends more time in the magnetic field. And therefore he undergoes more bending than the nominal particle. Yes, agreed?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And the guy on the other side, I am just writing less comma less. Of course, what I mean is, you know what I mean. Less time spent in the magnetic field, less bending than nominal. So three parallel particles which were moving initially will ultimately go and focus at one particular point. This is what is the origin of the weak focusing in a magnetic field. Is this okay? This is what you mean. So you can see that this is not sharp focusing. इतना लंबा distance वो travel करके आएगा बाद में किधर तो जाके वो meet करेगा. You can actually try this at home on a piece of graph paper. Take a वो अपना rounder रहता ना compass. उससे you can try. Because the bending radius will be same, because velocity is same, bending radius is same because of rigidity formula. So entry point is different in the magnet, bending radius is same. Try to find out where they go and meet. They'll go and meet at some particular point. Okay. So you will get a weak focusing of the particles by the magnetic field of a dipole bending magnet. So on this particular slide, we have tried to obtain the typical matrix for a drift region and a bending magnet. We have explained why the lower left entry, M21 entry, it indicates whether the particular beamline element is going to be focusing or defocusing. And accordingly, the behavior we have studied for the drift region where there is zero, no focusing or defocusing, just drift. And for the bending magnet where it gives slight amount of positive focusing, we have seen the physical reason for that in the figure. Is it okay so far? Any questions, doubts, comments at this point of time? All right, if not, then let us move one step further. We still have to figure out for quadrupole lens what kind of what kind of matrix you are going to get. So let us do that. Okay. So for a quadrupole type of magnet, for a quadrupole magnet, we already said K is just K. However, there is a slight problem. The problem is the following, that K can be positive or negative. Okay. So let us look at a quadrupole magnet. First of all, with K greater than 0, to trivial. This is nothing but our original matrix. Cosine of root K times S 1 by root K sine of root K times S minus root K sine of root K times S. This is the standard matrix where K is a constant, and for the quadrupole, K is nothing but the some term which is proportional to dB by dx. It will have some Q, P by something dB by dx, bottom line. Okay? That will be the quadrupole strength, what is called as. However, when K is less than 0, what happens? What happens when K is less than 0? Okay, let us try to take it this way. If K is less than 0, then square root of K can be written as I times square root of modulus of K. Agreed? Yes?
Yes, sir.
If K is less than 0. Now, what will be, for example, let us say, what will be cosine of I times theta? मालूम है ये? मैथमेटिकल मेथड्स में कभी किया है?
सर याद नहीं आ रहे.
So hyperbolic आता है.
हाँ, it will be a hyperbolic ratio. That is easy to see. See, you know that. Just one example I am solving. Sine के लिए you have to do it yourself. Cos of theta can be written as e to the power I theta plus e to the power minus I theta upon 2. Everyone agrees with this?
Yes, sir.
Then now substitute, suppose what is cos of I theta? It will be e to the power I times I theta, which is minus theta, plus e to the power I minus I times I theta, which is e to the power plus theta, which is nothing but the hyperbolic cosine function of theta. Derivation is there, so now you can be convinced. Is this okay?
Yes, sir.
And no, not okay. Hello.
No, I said yes.
Okay, your voice is breaking, but anyway, I think you are saying that it is fine. I hope. The sine of I theta turns out to be I times sine hyperbolic of theta. This I am stating without proof, but the proof proceeds exactly along this line. So you can do it yourself. It's not difficult. So if I want to answer the question on what is the transfer matrix for a quadrupole which has k in the negative direction, what would be the result? Bolo. Cosine of root k times s will be cosine of I times root of mod k times s. That will just be, sorry. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Here you will get one I in the denominator and one I in the numerator, and they will cancel. Sorry. Here you will get one I over here and another I over here and a minus sign. So minus I square, which is plus 1. So this is much more horrible than what we will actually be using. Horrible looking expression than what we will actually be using. But don't extend the square root up to s. If you are unable to curtail the tails of your square root, put the s first and then the square root. But write the expression correctly. Okay.
So that will be cos hyperbolic.
Yes, it will be cos hyperbolic. So let me correct that. Thanks. Very nice. Okay. Basically, you get this. Of course, this looks horrible, but you notice one very important thing, that when k greater than 0, you have a focusing term. and when k greater than 0, by our logic of the last slide. Agreed? Yes?
Yes, sir.
This is the basic expression for the transfer matrix for a quadrupole, which is either focusing or if it is a focusing quadrupole, you use the upper expression. If it's a defocusing quadrupole, you use the lower expression. Okay. So basically, instead of calling quadrupole with k greater than and quadrupole less than 0, the first one is basically the matrix for a focusing quadrupole. And the second one is basically the of course, all our discussions on the nature of complex functions is constrained here. Okay. All right. Let us do just one more thing. If in a real accelerator, normally it is observed that the quadrupole magnets have high fields and small sizes compared to the rest of the accelerator. So often one can resort to what is called as the thin lens approximation. The thin lens approximation basically says that root k times s is very small. Root k times s, by the way, is a dimensionless quantity. So when you say it is very small, it's a numerically very small number. And when you do that, then what will happen to the expressions for the focusing and defocusing quadrupoles? You can write them as cos of small number is just 1. Sine of small number will be just that small number. So this will be s. Similarly, here you will get or there is a slightly better or not necessarily better, but more conventional way of writing this, where L is the length of the quadrupole. Similarly, the matrix for a defocusing quadrupole, if you expand in similar, this comes from a Sada Taylor series expansion and retaining the first term. There is nothing special. It will give you 1L plus KL and 1. So then you can see that the expressions for both focusing and defocusing quadrupole are very similar, and the only difference is the sign of K. If K is where okay, this is what you mean is modulus of K. Otherwise, it will be the same thing. Okay. All right. Any questions, doubts, etc. at this point of time? Please ask. I'll pause for few seconds.
सर वो L को S की जगह पे लिखा है क्या, वो आर्क लेंथ?
हाँ, S means it is the total. S in this case is your matrix goes from 0 to S, na? Means if you start at 0, then till S. So it is the total region, total distance traveled through that region. So I am just calling it L because more conventionally it is called L. That's all.
Okay.
Means S is the distance from L is the distance from 0 to S, as we have defined it in the earlier slides. Okay.
Yes.
Right. Done. Good. Now one more small thing and then we will stop. Okay. This till here is clear to everyone, I hope. Any other doubts, questions, anything? This is basically the last point which I want to make. Basically, how do you use this, whatever we have developed in the current year? Suppose I have a general accelerator. Let us have some accelerator, There is an ion source. Then there is a lens. The same one which we had in the beginning. You have a bending magnet. Then you have another lens. Then you have a target. बराबर है? This is okay with everyone? This kind of you have some generic accelerator. Okay. Now, so I want to know while going from source to target, what all will happen to me along the way. Okay. So let us try to picturize this. This is X as a function of S. Sorry, no, not X. It is actually, okay, let me, this K as a function of S, but I am talking about the X direction. So in that sense, this is Kx. I'll come to the reason why you need this in a moment. From source to target. बराबर है? So we have already seen that you will have a drift region, focusing magnet, another drift region, a bending magnet, another drift region, another focusing magnet, another drift region. बराबर है? So we know that K is non-zero and positive for the focusing magnet. K is equal to 1 by R square for the bending magnet. And K is non-zero and positive for the focusing magnet. However, we have to remember that if you have a quadrupole lens, then the quadrupole lens works this way, na? It has 4 poles: north, south, north, south. I am not drawing all the field lines, but basically if you have, let us say, these 4 points as test points, then for a particular configuration of the fields, if the x direction is focusing, then the y direction will be defocusing. Same lens, same object. If you make it focus in the x direction, the y direction there will be defocusing. If you make it focus in the y direction, in the x direction there will be defocusing. So if you look at this same diagram, that is nominal trajectory, same everything, source, target. Only this is k of x, k of s with respect to the y direction. So this is basically ky. Here, since the quadrupole lens you have used is focusing in the x direction, by default it will be defocusing in the y direction. Then you have a bending magnet which is bending in the x direction. It is not doing anything in the y direction. So just let us have all of these dotted lines first. See, when a bending magnet is bending the beam in the x direction, it does nothing in the y direction. The beam doesn't move vertically, only horizontally it changes direction when it passes through this magnet. So as far as the y direction is concerned, this is just another drift space. So here you have 3 drift spaces. Here 4 drift spaces. Here also you have those 4 because those are actually field free regions. But the bending magnet is also a drift space as far as y direction is concerned, because the bending magnet doesn't induce any kind of force in the y direction. So in the y direction, you will get also 7 matrices, but those 7 matrices need not be similar to the 7 matrices you obtained in the x direction. They can be totally different. 4 of them will be same, but 3 of them will be different. Okay. So we know that we have got region number 1, region number 2, region number 3, region number 4, region 5, region 6 and region 7. बराबर है? So suppose I know the initial conditions in the source, what is x and what is x prime. Basically I know the emittance, I can take assigned values of x and x prime. Then using matrix number 1, I can find out what is x and x prime at the end of section 1. Then using matrix number 2, I can find out what is the value of x and x prime at the end of section number 2, and so on. So basically, for the full accelerator, the matrix in the x direction will be basically a product of m1 times m2 please note the order of writing. That is because on the original x, so let me actually let me write it this way. Mx operating on the x and x prime vector will be equivalent to these 7 matrices in this particular order operating on the x prime vector. So basically m1 operates first, there is some resultant, then m2 operates, then m3, like that till m7 when it operates, you get the overall behavior. Source में ऐसा है तो target में तुमको क्या मिलने वाला है. Same way for the y-axis also. It will act on the vector y and y prime, and same thing. where M1, M2, etc. now correspond to the matrices in the y direction, which are different from the matrices in the x direction, because the beamline elements behave differently along the x and. So actually these are all but this calculation is doable. You just need probably a computer to do the matrix multiplications, because you know what to do for each of these. This is a drift space. This is a focusing magnet. This is another drift space. This is a bending magnet. This is another drift space. This is again a focusing magnet. This is another drift space. Similarly for the other guy. Oh, I forgot to complete this equation. This will operate on the vector y prime. Again, this guy is a drift space. This guy is defocusing magnet. This guy is a drift space. This guy is a drift space, defocusing magnet. Of course, if you do design the beamline like this, it will never work because there is too much defocusing in the y direction. Tumhara beam chala jayega. It will never reach the target. But that is not my point here. My point is, how do you manage to find out what is happening to the beam at target if you are given what is happening to the beam at source? That can be done simply by a exercise of multiplying multiple matrices. Each of these matrices, you already know how to write them down. For a drift space, it is 1s0 and 1, or 1l0 and 1, where l is the length of that drift space. Then for a dipole magnet, it is what you saw, cos s by r sines s by r, minus 1 by r sin s by r, and cos s by r. For a thin lens, it is 1l plus or minus kl and 1, where plus for defocusing and minus for focusing, and so on and so forth. So basically, you have reduced your problem of solving the equation for x and x prime in the entire accelerator to a matrix problem plus initial conditions. If initial conditions are given to you, then basically you just write down the matrices, multiply all of them, and at any point in the accelerator, you can find out what is happening to the beam, how much it is diverging, what is its displacement from nominal, etc., etc. Okay. So the complicated approach of solving Hill's equation using the Betatron function has somehow been simplified by noticing the fact that actually you just have constant values of k in different parts of the accelerator. So k is not truly a continuously varying function of s, but rather a piecewise discrete and constant function of s, and therefore it makes life very easy for you for doing those calculations. That was the basic idea of today's class. If there are any doubts at this stage, we can take them. Okay. And I'll stop the recording because I basically completed what I wanted to say as far as the lecture is concerned.